Welcome back, students and family members, as you continue on this virtual wax museum journey. Today is day 4. We are going to be creating research note cards to give a speech in the first person. You can look at the examples we've posted on the website to the right or follow this video to help guide you. What you're going to need to do is take your notes from Tuesday, which you hopefully completed on Wednesday, and create a note card that looks like this. In this example, you can see that Mr. Panza took the information from his notes and his research and created a speech in the first person. In other words, we did our research on Mr. Rogers. I found out lots of information on the individual, but now I need to become Mr. Rogers. Here's how I do that. I take all of these pieces of facts and information and I write them down on a note card. I want to point out a couple of specific things about this note card. First of all, you want to make sure that you write your name at the top. You also want to fill in every other line with an X. That's because we want you to skip lines. And the third and final, and perhaps most important part, is remember you are becoming this individual now. So I didn't write the information directly from here. I took the information from here and wrote it as if I were Mr. Rogers. Notice I don't say, "Hello, neighbor. Fred Rogers was." I say, "Hello, neighbor. My name is Fred Rogers, better known as Mr. Rogers. I was an important individual because I created and starred in the longest-running children's television program. The show was called Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood." Then I would continue. So if you're continuing to write this, notice the next part is talking about when and where he was born. I'm not going to write, "Mr. Rogers was born on March 20th, 1928. You can see I started with, "I was born," and then I would complete the sentence. On March 20th, 1928, in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, near Pittsburgh. And I continue writing in the first person on my note cards, just like this, all of the information that I researched. Now, if you did the project well, you've got a lot of information here, and I don't want you to leave any or any of the important parts out of your speech. So try and include everything that you have from Section 1, Section 2, and Section 3. That may mean you're going to need more than one sheet of paper. Or if you decide, you could also write them on note cards, just like this example here. As you can see, Mrs. Smith followed the same exact directions for creating note cards for her speech, except she used actual note cards instead of notebook paper. Each are fine. You can also use a computer source if you'd like. Just make sure that you are skipping lines so that it's easier to read and writing in the first person. Also make sure that you're using all of the information that you have placed in your research and put it into your writing. Notice Mrs. Smith has written in the first person by saying, "Hello, my name is Lucille Desiree Ball, the queen of comedy and television. I am influential because I brought a new kind of comedy known as sitcom to TV. I entertained millions of people and acted in." Now, when you have this, meaning you went from one note card to a second note card, we encourage you to once again skip lines. You can remind yourself to skip lines by placing an X, like I'm doing here, on every other line, and continue writing in the first person. Where did I get this information from? My research. So over here, when I want to know how did she entertain millions of people, I wrote it right here in section C of part 1 by creating and acting in the highest rated TV show in the 1950s. Acted in the highest rated TV show in the 1950s. And once again, you want to include all of the information from section 1 the major events in Lucille's life in Section 2, and in Section 3, the closing thoughts. Make sure everything is included in your note cards. They will then be presented in our virtual wax museum coming up in the near future. So follow Mrs. Smith's examples and write your research in the first person on note cards like this, or follow the example on the website like Mr. Panza and write it on notebook paper in the first person. I hope these examples and this video helps.